Hello folks and welcome to today's show, a celebration of Clare, and delighted to say I've got Tommy Guilfoyle on from the top of the show. Tommy, from the cab of an old forklift there, just we've caught you in the right spot.
Yeah, it is. I probably had no intention of taking off today, a bit late coming in, but got in here, and probably it was easier to get up this morning than any other Monday morning. Still trying to come to terms with that 92 minutes of madness that we witnessed in Croke Park yesterday. But I think the overriding is loads of joy around the county for men, woman and child.
Michael, what did you make of it yesterday? We were in there. It was quite something.
It was something else, lads, wasn't it? From the first second to the last second, and lads cramping up and lads coming off, and a couple of controversial frees, some of the most amazing scores we've ever seen. It was something else, lads. I never seen that. It's probably the best game I've seen in the flesh, or the best All-Ireland final I've seen in the flesh anyway, I'd say. I might have seen a better one on TV or two, but it was something else, lads. It was class. I'd say Tommy's on cloud nine today.
Yeah, Michael, I suppose, we spoke briefly after, and fair play to you. You come over and you shook my hand. I didn't know where Stapleton was, but look, I thought maybe he had done a runner, I'd say, maybe to get out of the stadium for all his great Clare fans.
Do you know what? I went around to a few different pubs last night as well, and I had plenty of Clare supporters coming up to me, looking to know what I thought of it. But to be fair, it was all in great spirits. Tommy, what was the final whistle like for you?
It probably stuck for words, and I'm not really ever stuck for words, but the finish just to get over the line was one of probably relief. Not so much on myself and Sil and Derek were in the commentary position there, but I think for the players and management, they've so much heartbreak, so much, hard losses to take. But I think going into the game, I think the whole setup suited them. Cork were raging hot favourites. There was a lot of hype about Cork. From the Clare point of view, I think the expectations probably were a bit muted compared to maybe other years, and that, again, fed into it. But I think the overriding emotion was that, every man, woman and child was willing Clare over the line, and just got over the line yesterday in probably a classic, a great one to win from a Clare point of view, but no consolation to Cork that they lost out by a point in an epic battle.
What was the difference though, Tommy?
I think I spoke about it on Thursday night there. I think these Clare players and management had probably bottled up the hurt and the pain and the despair of losing tight games, losing Munster finals, losing semi-finals, and I just felt that once we got over the line against Kilkenny to get to the final, that they weren't going to let this opportunity go. The road is a long way back to Croke Park. You'd wonder, would players question themselves, management question themselves. Clare or no other team, has a right to win in All-Ireland. A lot of people say that this team deserves to win in All-Ireland. You have to really earn that right, and I think this team has, and I think it's just probably a reward for their I think a lot of the word has been resilience and spirit and just a determination to keep coming back, and persistence pays off.
Just on that, Tommy, central to it all has been what Brian has been doing in the background. In the background and between the white lines, I think he's used 62 players throughout his 5-season tenure, which is something else. But a lot of things came home to roost yesterday. The amount of game time Darrell Owen had got, the amount of game time Keane Galvin had got. Those lads probably weren't expecting to be called upon when they were. But even I thought, and he's gotten some, he's been questioned before in the past. I thought the sideline got things bang on the money. The second, Shane Kingston got his second point, and it was finger up straight away. Keane Galvin was in, fresh legs. Diarmuid Ryan, as good as he was, his day was done. He just couldn't keep up with a speedster like that. Darrell Owen goes in full back. And as John Milan said to me this morning, a low one with a red helmet, a full back, He shouldn't have, like, he's never really played there. And he was just brilliant. He neutralised Brian Hayes, Shane Mean, who hasn't seen much game time, but has played quite a lot earlier in the season. Ian Galvin, like, it was the strength in depth really that got you over the line in the wind up.
It was, yeah, and I suppose look at just on Dara, I would have had Dara at under 16, East Clare under 16s, and then the county, which Dara only made the B team, but would have played fullback or cornerback, so probably would have been accustomed to, but to put him in there and trust him, I think it's the measure of the management. But I suppose, as you mentioned, Michael, 62 players over a couple of years, in Clare, we probably don't have, that massive amount of players ready to play inter-county hurling. So I think, Brian has gone out, and brought in potential and then developed that potential both physically and hurling-wise, and more importantly, mentally, because I suppose Brian, picks on character, I think, first and foremost, because, when I suppose everyone can hurl in the sunshine, it's when the shit hits the fan, you want the players to perform. And yeah, going into the game yesterday, who would have thought that as many players would have seen game time? But I think that's a result of, probably a surprising win in the National Hurling League, where he blooded a lot of players. So while, over the championship, they wouldn't have seen a lot of time, he still knew what they had. But then again, you had Ian Galvin, and Ryan Taylor and Aaron Shanahan, who would be experienced players to come in. And then he had probably the exuberance and the innocence of youth. And, Shane Meehan got on the scoreline. Robin Mounsey made a short appearance. So I think it was one of the days when, despite the first 10 minutes, that the stars finally aligned for Clare. Although we really, really had to work hard. But I think the difference was that hurt, that they had suffered as a group. I suppose us supporters, look at, we come and go, but, what they've endured over the last couple of years to keep coming back, has been nothing short of, monumental, and led by Brian Lohan.
What was it like in the team hotel? Like, who did you bump into? Did you get chatting to a few of the players? Yeah,
I probably met most of the parents, and of course, beaming with pride. I had a good chat with John Conlon's father, Pat, and his mother, Bridget. Great hurling people. Obviously, I met the fecal contingent and there, but I think it was, a general acknowledgement of, a lot of hard work over a lot of period of time, and look, at everyone is proud of their own, and some people. The mothers and fathers sometimes take a back seat, but what goes into producing hurlers, bringing them to training as 6 and 7 and 8 year olds, and bringing them around the county as development squads, it's a reward for all that, and indeed all the club coaches, throughout the county. Hurling probably in Clare, was never in danger, but I suppose at an inter-county level, we had fallen behind. I think we have rectified that, and that's to the board's credit there, because you just can't wait for it to happen. I think you have to plan for it to happen. There was a 5-year strategic plan put in place. Now look at and Pat Fitz and the former county board used to get a lot of criticism to where we were, but in the modern era, just one man or a couple of men can't do it. It takes, it takes a team of people who are committed, who are well, financed, well organised, and you will get the best people involved. So that's it is the culmination of a couple of years, but superbly led by Brian Lohan.
Michael,
Tommy, how was John Collins still on the pitch at the end? Like, what an absolute beast! And all the talk of him being exposed for pace, it never happened. I didn't see it happening once. He was able to always get back. And in fairness, Johnny Murphy was lenient with a few things that probably helped him at different times. But like, what an animal of a man.
Look at, no more than I had down. I brought John Conlon into the minor setup as a 15-year-old. He played 3 years as a minor, and at that time, his love and his want to play hurling, even at 15, stood out a mile, and you can't buy that there. You have to bring that dedication, and I don't know what's after happening. I'm going off the screen here, so but you could see at that stage that he really wanted to play. And I remember going into training every evening. John was a boarder in Flannan's, and John's first question to me was, where were we going for the dinner after? They mustn't be feeding him enough in Flannan's. So look at great hurling people. Pat is originally from Killanena, a great hurling man, and they had a tough year this year. Pat hadn't been well, and Bridget had an accident, a farming accident at home, and it was tough. But John has struggled through, and how he kept on the field is, I think, probably physically as well honed as he possibly can. But I think mentally strong. That I saw himself and David McInerney attempting to run for the ball when it was easier to, not to get there. They just got a hurley, a leg, a hand, a shoulder in. And I think, look, Clare needed leaders at the end of the game. Some of our best players, were off the field. So, the players on the field took that responsibility. And, I'm just delighted for him. A superb hurler, but a real, gentleman, and as decent a man as you can get. Delighted for him.
And what a reward for Shane Meehan there, waiting, in the wings, probably looking for his chance from a tiny club banner. And he goes and scores what ultimately proves to be a winner in an All-Ireland. Yeah,
a guy that, has been touted for a couple of years. He's had to be patient. He's had a lot of injuries, unfortunately, during COVID. He missed out minor in 20 games, and that for different reasons, but stuck at it. Waited for his chance. Probably, would have expected a bit more game time. Fitzgibbon Cup winner with Mary I this year, and all that experience would have stood him. So, but again, the depth of the panel was the winning of the game yesterday, and while sometimes you could be not too happy and being a bit disgruntled, when you get your chance, you have to take it, and I think all those players, took that chance yesterday. Probably when maybe, without the extra time, as many players wouldn't have got game time, but the ones that did really came in and played their part.
Michael, the Cork tactic of just booming puck outs down around the D and looking to get on the breaks as they'd done so successfully against Limerick. Clare were ready for it, and they hoovered up so many of the breaks. I thought Adam Hogan was very good at spoiling Brian Hayes. Hayes wasn't always able to flick it exactly where he wanted to. To be fair, Clare knew it was coming, and they were all, and people had said, Limerick, they'd know it was coming the second day around. Still couldn't deal with it. Clare did.
Yeah, I was surprised, I thought it was a bit really one-dimensional at different stages, and you could kind of tell for early doors that they weren't really getting much joy off that long ball. They weren't getting the breaks that they wanted. And Cleary was spoiling Hayes brilliant at times as well. Lads, Cleary was under pressure when he got that yellow. No point in saying any different. And you're kind of half thinking, should this lad be still on the field, come the 68th minute or whatever? But the 15 minutes before half-time he played were absolutely superb. Now, he teeters right on the edge. He is right on the edge. But he definitely had the upper hand in that duel. And yeah, I was just surprised that Cork had nothing else. Even Declan Dalton played a very, very similar game to what he played against Limerick. But David McInerney didn't really follow him as much. And was it Fitzgerald that was that side as well? Was kind of dropping back and cutting off that kind of out ball. And yeah, it was strange to see that Cork didn't have more kind of strings to their ball. Fair enough, Limerick didn't deal with it the second time they got it. But you'd imagine that Clare would have analysed it pretty closely, and they did. So it was very, very surprising. There was very little short ball. They never, how many, I could count on one hand, I'd say, the amount of short puck outs they took. It was real old school. Quilligan was horsing ball down most of the time, but he wanted to. That was their tactic, particularly when Duggan was on the field. But Cork were getting very, very little joy off that puck out, and they just persisted and definitely played into Clare's hands.
And again, on that, lads, I think, I think it was probably something that Clare, would have been, as you said, comfortable with. But the amount of ball that Diarmuid Ryan and David McInerney actually caught and countered off our puck out, it was a kind of a double whammy there where, this isn't happening. What's plan B? It did happen before. And I think in some ways, that was, we spoke about it, I think, on Thursday night there about, the puck outs and how Cork set up and that. And I suppose I thought the Clare full forward line dropped off. It gave them an option to change it, but they still seemed to want to go along without any great success. And I suppose, look, if you base your game plan around that, it's very hard to change midstream and be comfortable with it, because now something that you trusted hasn't worked. So what is plan B? But and again, probably they persisted with it, and the longer the game went on, I think the more Clare came to grips with it and were comfortable in that. To me, if David McInerney, if the ball was planted 20 yards in front of him where he had to run to the sideline, it would have really stretched that Clare defence. I thought that Clare defence, were able to stay connected, stay in their positions, face the ball that they knew was coming down. Probably good communication that 3 or 4 Clare lads didn't go up, and sometimes, Cork were hoping for that second ball, but it just didn't materialise.
I was kind of just at a glance there, about a quarter of the chances that Clare got in the game came from either breaking ball that Cork were looking to advance up the field, turnovers, interceptions. Tommy, Clare were ravenous throughout the game, and I know it came down to one score at the very end, and maybe Robbie O'Flynn, he probably won't ever be able to go to sleep without thinking about that attempt at the very end. But I just feel like Clare's ability to just constantly fight, spoil, and upset that Cork full forward line was huge in this game.
Yeah, again, look, I suppose that was where, one of Cork's strengths. So obviously they would have, and again, look, we spoke about the potential matchups, and I just think that, Brian Hayes early on had Conor Cleary in trouble forcing the yellow card, but, probably when you've, two cornerbacks like Adam Hogan and Conor Lean with pace that have confidence to attack the ball, provided they didn't make a mistake, it was really, really tough on the Cork forwards to gain clean possession inside to force errors on that Clare defence. But I think the main thing was, after the first 10 minutes, I was a bit worried after the first 10 minutes, Cork made a couple of forays down through the middle, and you'd be asking, where's our central spine gone? And for someone like Rob Downey to do what he did, it was first of all, it shouldn't have happened, but, credit where credit is due. It was, and again, we had goals in Croke Park yesterday. We had 2, that will be spoken about in folklore to come, but I just watched Rob Downey again, right? I mean, what a finish, to have the composure and the confidence now. I don't know, was he going for a point or what, but once it opened up, he took the thing and he rifled it into the top of the net.
And it was deadly forward play from Connolly, who made Hogan was man marking Connolly, and Connolly pulled away to allow the space to stay open for Downey. And then Hoggy makes the run, not even looking for the ball, but takes Lean out of the game as well. And in fairness to Rob Downey, but I will say this, it was an unbelievable goal and an unbelievable finish. And from Peter Duggan's point of view, he's after running 80 yards. He was kind of bet by the end of it. And you're thinking, Jesus, maybe it won't be my day. And he was an unbelievable outball for puckouts. And lads, to take out the pitching wedge like he did for that line ball, what? I haven't seen him score one of them in a while. And he saved it until the right day.
He has that ability, probably he would be down the pecking order in relation to, freeze and line balls for Clare with Rogers and McCarthy and probably Kelly. But yeah, I've seen him doing it numerous times. He's well capable. But I suppose doing it under pressure on the biggest day of the year, makes it even more special. And look, there was lots of special things about yesterday. Lots. I suppose hurling, All-Ireland hurl finals, take on a life of its own. And, a player might stand up that wouldn't have stood up before. But I think from a Clare point of view, it was about the collective. I would have hoped and prayed for that. You know, I would have accepted that all Clare players, you know, would just play good, you know, without being men at the match level. And I think we got that. I think we won most of the battles over the 90 minutes, I think, for the finish. And, you know, again, the impact of the bench. But it was one of those days that, you know, potentially in Clare, us as supporters and looking in, we always thought was possible. It was about putting it together for, you know, 70 plus minutes. And, you know, it ended up 90 yesterday. You know, a sweet one to win. But as I said, no consolation to Cork that they took part in. Look, we'll be biased to say the greatest All-Ireland performance ever. But, you know, the game of hurling, I think, won out yesterday. I'd say it won supporters. I was in a chipper in Finglas at 12:30 last night. Servano's chipper, I think. And there was a guy inside. The guy behind the counter was meant to talk hurling, but there was a guy outside the counter, worse for wear now. All he wanted to do was talk about St. Pat's Athletic or Shamrock Rovers. I hadn't the heart to tell him to go away. Your man behind the counter, it was gas. I was starving. We were driving around looking for something to eat. We got 2 chicken boxes, and by Jesus, they went down well.
Speaking of things that went down well, Tony Kelly's performance, that goal, unbelievable. Some of those scores, the one on the spin, the one where he initially broke the ball at the sideline and then received the ball from someone and flicked it over someone's head, popped it over. Like, that was a performance for the ages. And like, there's been criticism before about him in finals. Jeez, he really showed up.
Yeah, and again, as I said before about the whole Clare team, I think, you know, they weren't prepared to let this day pass. They didn't want to have any regrets, and it was about getting out. And look at, we in Clare, you know, probably expect too much from Tony Kelly at times. You know, while we were never a one-man team, he was always our talisman. But for me, you know, I think in one particular game, I described him as the Harry Potter of hurling. You know, that hurley in his hand is a wand. Yesterday, I thought he had a broom the way he took off there through that Cork defence. And, you know, like, looking at it, to do that in the heat of the battle, the occasion that was in it, the pressure he was under. I'm not sure now about either of you two, but I'd probably trip myself up in a dream, never mind carry it out physically.
And, like, Tommy, he'd gotten his fill from Tim O'Mahony, who was brilliant as well. Tim O'Mahony got 3 outstanding points, probably one of his best performances in a Cork shirt. But just the way, like, Tim O'Mahony's chasing right behind Kelly for the goal. Sean O'Donoghu's right in front of him. Like, a goal is not on. Then all of a sudden there's a feint. He takes the ball, tips the ball forward on the boss of the hurl, and then absolutely takes the roof off the net without taking the ball in his hand. Like, holy Christ.
Yeah, no, again, you know, we probably, someone said, how and why did he end up in there? You know, that, I think it was David Fitzgerald.
Yeah.
Wouldn't have given him the greatest of passes because I think he probably had to do a lot to get the ball into control in the first place. But we were just talking here at work this morning. Is it a kind of a fear now that had any of the defenders attempted to take him out or foul him, would it be black card penalty situation? So, but no, I wouldn't think it was that. I will give the credit to Kelly in his execution of, I think I described it on the radio as something that Maradona scored in a World Cup many years ago.
Yeah, just on that, there was definitely a fear in Sean O'Donoghu's head. Now, he probably, it's hindsight because it's so happening so quick. He probably could have wrapped him or hit him or got a contact on that's not necessarily cynical, but it's happening so quick. And Shayna, you described Kelly's point. Kelly's point in the 88th minute was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. He flicks the ball from Ethan Toomey. The ball has been passed to Jerome Elric. He flicks it again. Luke Meade is coming at him and the ball is on the ground. So he scoops the ball over Luke Meade's head, controls it, puts it in his hand and puts it over the bar. Like, it's absolutely incredible stuff. Like, talk about a fella, and I know it's about the collective, but talk about a fella dragging a team up the Hogan stand steps and just not taking no for an answer. It was the last 60 minutes or so that he delivered was a thing of absolute beauty.
Yeah, and I think, you know, in the first half, when we were under pressure and the middle looked like it was open, I think there I saw himself and John Conlon communicating with one another. Kelly kind of sat back in front of John Conlon and was an out ball, but also he had the ability to cut out some of the ball. It wouldn't have been probably an offensive role we would associate him with, you know, he would, or a defensive role. It would have been, you know, picking the ball off the half forward line going forward. So, you know, while that first half of the game, you know, it wasn't as if he sacrificed his game, but I think he adapted well. And lads, you know, another guy that, you know, how he lasted on the field was Cathal Malone. Now, he has been known as, you know, the workhorse for Clare over the last couple of years, but, you know, did a great job on Fitzgibbon, one of the key players, and lasted, I think, I don't know, was he the last one to come off nearly there, I'd say?
In around the 80th minute, I have it. In around.
I'm 86.
Yeah, I thought it was near to the end. Yeah.
Yeah, 86.
And like out on the field after, you know, I was lucky enough to get out onto the field.
I saw you down there. Hey, who did you slip? Who did you slip a 50 quid to?
No. I think there was once they saw the Clare crest on the jersey, they said go on in there. So we're nice people, myself and Sil, and you know, if you say the right words to the right people, you know, they usually go with you. But yeah, I was talking to Cathal Malone. He was walking around in a daze, and I thought he was on a phone or something. I went over and said to him, you know, and I gave him a big hug, and he says to me, Jesus, Tommy, all I want to do is lie down. He was drained. And I mean, and he said to me, had we to go to a replay, right, I don't think I'd be able for it. He said, I'd probably rather lose today than a pint than have to go back again. It was mentally and physically, you know, that training. And, you know, again, I got into the dressing room as well. And, you know, it was probably a sense of relief. But as the minutes ticked away and, you know, as the realization that what they had done, the fatigue suddenly went to, you know, great scenes of joy inside in the dressing room, great bit of crack. I have a video, but I'm not going to release it there. I under GDPR, I think I call it. Right? But, you know, just magic from the whole group. I think it's a group of 60 people, maybe with 40 players, 20 backroom team and county board and that. Just scenes of joy. Is there anything more gratifying in sport than to see people finally get what they deserve by persistence, by showing resilience, by showing real spirit, and, you know, rolling up the sleeves when the need is greatest? You know, I think it adds to the occasion.
Tommy, one thing we can't avoid is the two situations with Robbie O'Flynn. Did you think it was a black card penalty when he got tugged by David McInerney? And then at the very end, there's a lot of people putting out footage of Conor Lean's little tug on Robbie O'Flynn. Now, I would dismiss that one straight away. But what about the other one?
Definitely the last one. You know, it's very clear there was a tug on the jersey. There's no point in denying that. Now, the other one, going into the game, I had reservations about what type of a game Johnny Murphy will allow, but I must give credit where credit is due. I thought Johnny Murphy added to that game yesterday. Yeah, if you were a Cork person, you lose by a point, you can count back 20 different things. I heard Conor Lean on the radio this morning there and said, you get away with some of them, you get off with some of them. He got lucky yesterday. The Robbie O'Flynn one, I think in fairness, you know, and we speak about the officials not conferring. I think Johnny Murphy probably had a suspicion that it was maybe confirmed or not by his umpire. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt there. But if you were a Cork person, you know, grasping at straws, you say, yeah, potentially, yes, it was.
Okay, well, Tommy, you've been brilliant with your time. Really appreciate it and really enjoy the celebrations. Congrats.
Yeah, Shane, come down to the fair green in Innis tonight. I'll protect you. Right? I look after you. I will say all is forgiven. I will say that you wear the Clare jersey today and wore it with great pride. I see in you, Your shoulders are gone up. Your chest is sticking out. Like, you're one of our own now. Can you believe that? We have finally accepted Shane Stapleton does no longer hate Clare. He's one of our own. Fair play to you, Shane.
The only thing I'll say, Tommy, is what would he do down in Ennis if Adam Hogan was waving the hurler around him? I just wonder how he'd react to it. I don't know.
Do you know what Adam Hogan would do? He'd go over and thank him for inspiring him and motivating him to do it even more.
Well, he was brilliant.
Like probably we'll have 2 of the 3 young players of the year, 2 cornerbacks. Who would have believed it? 2 cornerbacks being young players of the year. Potentially now, that remains to be seen. But isn't it probably the way the modern game has gone? Is that every player has to play, every player has to be comfortable on the ball. And to me, yesterday, Conor Lean, probably unheard of, even within Clare, people were asking who he was and what he was. To come out, to go into that full back line, to hold off Rory Hayes, to hold off Paul Flanagan, to win his place on merit, and then give a display for the ages yesterday. I'm really, really delighted for him. And what that shows is, there's opportunities there. If you show a glimmer of promise and you fully commit to the cause, Brian Lohan will consider you. It's up to you to take your chance. But delighted for Corofin, a good friend of mine, Joe Cahill, cousin of the famous Des Cahill, in RTE, has nurtured the likes of those players with a combination of Corofin, Rouen. Corofin were an intermediate team last year. They won their intermediate championship this year, or they're up senior this year. And I think it capped off probably a 12 months where Corofin are back senior, but Conor Lean is now an established Clare senior player, the proud holder of an All-Ireland medal. Up the banner!
Drink it in, Tommy. Thanks very much.
Okay, thanks a lot, lads. Talk to you soon.
Cheers, Tom.
By God, there's one happy man.
I'd say he's happy man that he doesn't have a pint as well. He doesn't drink a pint at all because he is fresh. He looks fresh as a daisy today and soaking in every bit of it, and he'd remember every second of it.
Yeah, geez. We picked the right man when we decided to text him this morning. He was brilliant at our preview night in Scariff as well.
Yeah, he was very, very good. Listen, on one point that we were talking about the Conor Lean one, I didn't see the pull on the jersey in real time. But it's one thing having a little pull of the jersey, but he got his right arm fully across O'Flynn. Like, he actually made it really difficult. Like, if you're the referee and you're in any way blindsided, you're nearly thinking his whole body is in front of him. You can't really see the other hand. And I do think Johnny Murphy was a bit obscured there. Now, there was a couple of other ones. The Seamus Harnedy block was definitely a 65. And that should have been an obvious one because he was striking directly at the goal, and all of a sudden the ball veers off in a mad direction. Like, that would never happen off his own hurl. It would have had to have happened connection off somebody else's hurl. Initially, I did think the Robbie O'Flynn one was probably a penalty and a black card, if I'm honest with you.
I thought so too at the time.
Yeah, when you look back at it, you're probably saying, Adam Hogan is covering. And in fairness,
if he was there to cover, it still was a goal scoring opportunity. Like, if he hadn't been tugged back, he would have had a chance to collect the ball and have a shot.
You would have imagined so, yeah. The one thing I will say about Johnny Murphy in that instance, and he was very, very good throughout. At least he conferred and didn't make a rash decision and put his 2 arms up. The 3 of them conferred, and they were obviously happy, or the majority were happy with to give a free or whatever. But I thought that was going to be the game, to be honest with you. And had that been a penalty been awarded there and McInerney in the sin bin for 10 minutes, it was probably game over. And just one thing, and I know we've talked a hell of a lot about Clare, for Cork to stay in the game as well as they did when, as Tommy mentions there, go through the battles, like they were losing 10 of the 14 outfield battles, realistically. Like who like outside of Tim O'Mahony, like for maybe 45 minutes, who else was winning a battle? Owen Downey was doing okay where he was. Rob Downey did well early. I'd say Duggan did better as the game went on.
Downey having to go off, I think, could have been the tipping point for Cork. Cork's subs didn't make the same impact that the Clare ones did. And in a little while, we're going to do player ratings from the match, including the benches as well, how we thought that bench rated out of 10. So we will come back to that. But I thought one of the most unusual matchups from the game was David Fitzgerald against Mark Coleman. Both lads scored 4 points. And, you could say a lot of positive things about both of them.
Did Coleman get 3 or 4?
I have him down for 3.
Yeah.
So, and Fitzgerald scored 4. But Fitzgerald actually, and I counted up afterwards, he missed 1/8's worth of chances. 1/8.
Yeah.
And like the guy never stops going. Like he was, in many ways he was absolutely brilliant, but that's a huge amount to not score. And he popped the pass for Kelly to score his goal. Now Kelly had a lot of work to do. But even at the end, I was looking down and Fitzgerald had been down shaking hands at the Cork end of the field. And then he went running back to the Clare side. And I was like, how can he run at this stage after... It was probably closer to 100 minutes when you include...
I think it was 102 minutes combined, taking in all the injury time. And that's just even more phenomenal for Conlon, McInerney. And I looked down at Tony Kelly after he put over that point in the 74th minute, and I said, oh, this lad's done. He's done. He's done. And he was after taking a big dunt in front of the Clare management as well at one stage too. And I thought he was done. And to do what he did in extra time was ridiculous. I thought Kieran Joyce was good from a Cork point of view. Got forward for that great score in extra time. It was kind of funny. He started centre back when O'Donnell started at 11, and Downey went out 7. So I probably wouldn't have, we might have mentioned it, but I wouldn't have thought that would actually happen. As regards Coleman and Fitzgerald, it was almost like two boys that just had no interest in marking each other, and were just like, whatever you do, that end you do, I'm going to do this at the other end. And Fitzgerald could have had 8-9 points realistically in an All-Ireland final. Easily could have had. And it's mad how I think he'd maybe 2-3 wides in a row and the ball falls to him again nearly straight away, and you're like, does he want to shoot here? He has to, because he's no choice, but does he want to? I have to mention as well, I thought Ethan Toomey was brilliant when he came on, but he's probably not the man they wanted on some of those shots. They probably wanted a shooter. He's a brilliant forager, and he got on some amount of ball, but sometimes the ball pops maybe to the man to take a shot that you don't want to sometimes. But I thought, from general playing that, I thought he was super.
Yeah, I'd say Cork really wanted to get Dara Fitzgibbon into the game a little bit more, whether it was midfielder when he moved up to the half-forward line, when Conlon was picking him up. Seamus Harnedy having to go off, that was another massive blow. I do feel I have to say, I thought it was brilliant from Cork to run Clare down at the end of the game and get their equaliser. To be fair to them, and obviously we talked about the potential black card. And you could say there was a couple of times that Clare got the rub of the green, but I think one time in particular was the 74th minute, and Clare were a point ahead at this stage. And remember, Jack O'Connor was soloing in from the Hogan stand side, and he put it wide on the near side at the hill. Now, number one, I think that Johnny Murphy should have gone back for a free, because Adam Hogan had absolutely...
Yes, I saw it. Yes.
So not only should he have gone back for a free, but it should have been a second yellow card for Hogan. Now, at that stage, there's maybe a minute and a half or whatever, and Clare would... actually, do you know what? You stay down to 14 men, don't you? I keep forgetting about that rule change. Clare were very fortunate there. Now, Hogan was absolutely brilliant, really brilliant. But that should have been a second yellow card. And I think Cork supporters, if they wanted to be really surly about this, they could be. Now, I don't know, I bumped into a few Cork supporters last night, and they weren't really giving it the big one about the decisions. But there's a few things there for sure where they can feel a bit aggrieved.
Listen, I think Johnny Murphy made up his mind before the game that unless it was criminal, that he wasn't going to send somebody off. Dave McInerney was unbelievable throughout. Him and Connolly tangled, and there was a fair bit of contact. There was a fair bit of contact involved there. Listen, I kind of said beforehand that if Clare were allowed to make it a physical bruising contest, that it would suit them, and it definitely did. I remember even Conlon's very aggressive pull/flick on Fitzgibbon late on could have been for Meehan's point actually, and end up in Meehan's hands. Other days, that's a free and a yellow. Do you know what I mean? But it was refereed differently. Saying that, Sheno, I don't think Clare got a free in the second half of the game yesterday, which has to be unheard of. They
certainly didn't have a scoreable free, because I have no instance of it here.
I actually don't think they had a free. And just for talking, you're not nuts. And just as well, we're talking about Kelly. I know he wasn't, mad influential in the first half, but when I saw him hitting that quick free to Mark Rogers in the 31st minute, they end up with a Rogers point. I was like, this lad is thinking unbelievably clearly here. It's an All-Ireland final and he's thinking quickly and trying to make things happen. And it was probably maybe, it set the maybe template for what was going to follow in the second half. But there's so much to discuss, so many incidents. But like from a Cork point of view, it's just difficult because they peaked, and this was the fear going into it. They peaked twice against Limerick. They didn't hit those levels. And it looked like they were going to early on until Shane O'Donnell turned the game, in my view, in the space of about 5 minutes. It was 1-8-4. And O'Donnell basically sets up 2 goal chances, one which ends up with McCarthy hitting the net in the 17th minute. And then O'Donnell
after 10 steps.
Yeah, more than likely, yeah. And then O'Donnell hits back-to-back points. And all of a sudden it's 1-8 to 1-6 and Clare are back in the game. And funnily enough, although Cork were very healthy on the scoreboard before that, Clare had a string of wides that would have had them much closer than they actually were on the scoreboard. So they were actually dealing quite well with the aerial bombardment even before then. But then all of a sudden, Cork's first wide came in the 15th minute. They'd 1-8 without a wide. 1-8 without a wide. Like that's ridiculous. But the fear was that he couldn't keep to those levels. And then all of a sudden, a couple of wides started clicking in, and Clare's shooting efficiency went way up. And it evened itself out. But yeah, just fantastic stuff, really. Like, I don't know. I'll be straight with you. I didn't want extra time. I thought this is, I don't know, like, what do you think? You've been an advocate for extra time and penalties and getting the game done on the day. But I even get the hint from you that when you see Rob Downey being forced off, like, he would have been no problem to play 13 days later. Shane O'Donnell been forced off. Who else was forced off? There's a couple of other bodies. It's just pure fatigue, pure cramp. It was a survival of the fittest at the end, and I don't think that's what it should be.
Yeah, look, normally, and I think when we've had this discussion before, I think we've kind of agreed for finals. Yeah, a replay is fine. It's just
I'm not sure if you did now, but listen,
I'm
not sure. But I'll give you it.
No, I think I might have. Look, in general, I'm fine about the penalties and all that kind of stuff. But I did feel like initially, extra time, I was like excited about it. But then once it started, I was like, the intensity has fallen off the face of the cliff here. And it is about who's got the deeper panel. And some people would say, well, maybe that's a good thing that it's tested out the depth of a panel. But let's say you're from a county like Dublin footballers. The depth of the panel will nearly always favour them. So is it a good thing in that situation? Or certainly during their really dominant period? Now, you would actually think with the size of the counties and the amount of clubs that it should have favoured Cork. But that wasn't the case here. No, I just thought that, in soccer, and I posted this on X after that, in soccer, generally the intensity drops and the two teams can just sort of play in front of each other and, not really engage and just go through the motions for the half an hour. And people were going on about it during the Euros that maybe they should take it down to 10 minutes aside because it's just 30 minutes of dross. In hurling, you're still forced to sprint during extra time because if a ball goes 80 yards up the pitch and you're a corner back, you can't not go with your man. So it's actually, I'd say, over the top demanding, especially for an All-Ireland final when, I don't know, the amount of energy that you expend, whether it's physically or even like mentally going into the game, so much more. It felt wrong. As I started off thinking, yeah, I'm all for this, as in like I can't wait for this to start. And then I was like, nah, this. And to be fair, Tony Kelly looked done actually, even before the end of normal time. I don't know how he stayed going.
No, it was crazy, and he delivered his best in extra time. But you're literally talking about the creme de la creme, like the fittest of the fit here, and lads are out, like, and there's just nothing you can do about it. Like Mark Rogers is like an absolute flyer. Like, there's no way you think he's going to go off. But if your calf cramps, it's like Clifford in the All-Ireland semi-final against Tyrone a couple of years ago. If it happens, it happens. You try to do your best to make sure it doesn't happen. But if it happens, it happens. And all of a sudden, you're looking on anxiously from afar. And funnily enough, was he the only player brought back on? Aidan McCarthy had a big impact when coming back on. I think he was the only one. I was actually surprised that Shane Barrett didn't come back on. And even Alan Conley didn't come back on as well. at different stages because they'd been pulled relatively early in the context of the game. Maybe even Declan Dalton as well, who came off, around the 50-minute mark, I think. But yeah, I thought McCarthy had a huge impact in extra time as well.
Would we agree that Pat Ryan and Cork didn't really get their substitutions right, in the sense that they brought on Jack O'Connor, Shane Kingston, and
Jack O'Connor was really from the cold now, wasn't it? Like how much time has he played this year? I was surprised.
Yeah, did he come on for a couple of minutes the last day? I think he might have came on really. But the reason I feel that it didn't work, I mean, look, they just didn't hit their stride on the day. But they persisted with the really long puck out, even after they brought on players who were less suited to that. So I didn't feel that worked particularly well. And also, look, it wasn't Patrick Horgan's day from play. And there is that trade-off that on the freeze, he was still, those pressure frees, he was unbelievable. And remember that one that he hit from around the 65 to bring it back to a point, make it 126 to 321.
Yeah.
And he just because they were running out of time, it was just a case of I want to get this free taken and pop it over the bar. Even though it was for anybody else, it was an incredibly difficult free, but he just popped it down and threw it straight over the bar as if there was no more, didn't need to take any care over this incredibly difficult free. Just pop it over and let's get going again. But look, it really, really wasn't his day. And in terms of balls where he was initially out in front, Conor Lean, he did a brilliant job. And when you look at the substitutions, there is that trade-off. Was it Hoggy's day? Could they perhaps taken him off? Was it justified based on some of the pressure frees he knocked over? What do you think?
Well, funny enough, looking at the 91st minute here, Patrick Horgan point from play, great score I have written down beside it. And even he talked to Johnny Murphy before he took that free in the 92nd minute, which most people would have thought he would drop in to try and get match-winning goal. He put it over fairly kind of nonchalantly, and they obviously worked that last chance to level the game. I would say Lean got the better of the duel anyway, definitely. He definitely did get the better of the duel. Hoggy was playing on the fringes more so, really.
There's no doubt about it. Yeah. But the question is, was it a case that they nearly should have brought him off and maybe brought him back on again later on, Peter Canavan style? They couldn't predict that it would go to extra time, obviously. But was it a case that it really wasn't his day? And there are lads who could take frees there. I mean, they could have brought Dalton back on at some point.
Conor Lahan didn't feature at all. Yeah.
Shane Kingston has hit frees for the county in the past. It's probably not the ideal thing. They obviously are hoping that Horgan finds his way into the game, but I mean, it's certainly no disrespect because, we've spoken so positively about him for so long, but it just really was not his day. And I'd say it was something on the sideline. They were weighing it up. I suppose they were thinking, look, he will come good. And he did pop his few scores, to be fair. He got 2 for a finish, but yeah, especially when the rest of the inside forward line was going on. And I thought it was strange to take off Shane Barrett, even if it's not his day. He's such a dynamo. I feel eventually he's going to come good. And he got a couple of scores anyway, but Harnedy having to go off was huge.
Yeah, Harnedy going off and not having Rob Downey for extra time was huge as well. But he did, the game, it was mad. You always talk about, the managers always say, John Kiley always says about game ebbing and flowing. But Cork had it all in the first quarter. And then all of a sudden it turned when it went to extra. Clare were hanging on in normal time, I thought. Now, hanging on. It got to around the 69th minute. Horgan puts over a free in the 69th minute to leave 2 in it. Then all of a sudden, Mark Coleman gets a point. Then Horgan scores the leveller in the 73rd minute. And I'm thinking there's only one winner here. That's the way it seemed like it was going. And similarly, at the start of extra time, when Shane Kingston puts over, does he put over nearly 2 in a row? He put over 2 within the space of 3 minutes. And I'm thinking, Cork have all the legs here. And that's why I give Lohan and his backroom team great kudos. There was no sentiment. Dermot Ryan had been brilliant up until the end of full time, but he was in trouble on Kingston, and it was just a legs thing. And Keane Galvin, who's played quite a bit, and this is the thing about having lads ready for that 10 or 15 minutes just to finish a game and to plug a hole. And that's what a lot of it was. And I think the amount of lads that got proper game time in the league and played a lot of games really came home to roost, probably in extra time. You're not necessarily planning for it, but that's the way it worked out.
Do you feel that they got wrong though, Cork, in terms of the decisions overall? All the checks and balances, they were wrong.
Well, if you look at it in the cold light of day, it was 65. I probably would have said it was a penalty. So
and Connor Lean then on.
Yeah, I didn't see that in normal time. So it's very, very difficult for Johnny Murphy to see it. And as I said, he disguised it quite well too. I think.
But was it a free?
I tell you what, I didn't see it in normal time, so I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to say it was a free. He had a grab of the jersey, but you often have a grab of the jersey at different stages. I don't know how it could have been a tiny tug. I don't know. I didn't see it in normal time, so I'm going to give a pass
But
on that one.
But did you see a replay? And on the replay viewing, was it a free?
I've only seen the picture. You're
a coward, Bernie. You're a coward.
I'm definitely not. I'm also a fool who had a feeling that Clare were going to win, and lo and behold, Clare won.
Yeah, do you know what? Actually, I was thinking about it since, and obviously you'd bring that up. Your feeling, but
no, I only brought it up when you called me a coward. I wouldn't have brought it up otherwise because I'm bigger than that.
No, you're not. You're a coward. But I was thinking that Cork would win on the basis of the goal chances that they had been creating and would create. But when I totted it up there a little while ago, now some of these are half chances, or there was a goal opportunity and then there was a foul, or for example, the time Horgan got in but he batted it wide. I would still consider that a goal chance or a half.
Oh yeah.
And David McInerney tugging down Robbie O'Flynn. So some of these are half chances, some are chances that went back for frees or whatever. Cork had 6 goal chances, including the half chances. Clare had 9. So to be fair to Clare, and they buried 3 of them. Just like in the Munster clash, they were just that bit more efficient in front of goals.
1 from 6, 3 from 9. In fairness, and as well, I did think Clare were coming. They were after getting over the semi-final hump, not playing that well, and I thought there was serious room for improvement. They've also beaten Cork 4 times in a row in Championship now, and they've all been the tightest margins, but they've still managed to beat Cork. And it's funny, styles do make fights. Cork can lay it down to Limerick. Clare can lay it down to Limerick as well, but less so in terms of actually getting results. And Cork and Clare have managed to have just a strong hand ever so slightly over Cork the last 4 times they've met as well. It's funny, it's funny the way it works out. A team that was beaten twice by Limerick in the Munster Championship ended up as All-Ireland champions. And they beat the team that beat Limerick twice. It's mad.
Will Clare ever have a good opening 10 or 15 minutes in a championship game at Croke Park? Think about it again.
Yeah, I know. It was their best first half in Croke Park since the 2013 replay. But they still haven't managed to. God, if they do click for 75 minutes someday, they'll be an unstoppable machine.
Yeah, plenty of comments flying in here the whole time and keep them coming.
Wait till we get to the ratings and we see how many comments come in.
Christ almighty, we're going to get slated. Paul Scully says it was a slight pull. Still felt like he should have scored it. Looked a poor strike, maybe caused by the pull on the jersey. Yes, the whole thing. You could only really ask Robbie O'Flynn as well. How much did it impede his strike? Robert Muldoon, maybe it's more that the let it flow style of refereeing favoured Clare more than Cork were more hard done by.
I would kind of agree with that, to be honest with you. The way, and not being smart, and it hasn't been mentioned, I don't know if it's been mentioned anywhere really, but the how Johnny Murphy clamped down on the quick puck outs definitely helped Clare to set up. Eibhear Quilligan took his sweet time on his puck outs. Speed wasn't really going to be a thing, but Collins wanted to get the ball away as quick as possible, and he had to wait for Murphy's whistle every time. And that did allow Clare just to get in situ a bit quicker. That would say Limerick. Remember Darragh Fitzgibbon's point in the semi-final. That would have never been afforded the opportunity yesterday because Johnny Murphy was just blowing to make sure that there was structure and lads were where they were supposed to be outside the 21, etc.
Richard Hogan says Cork have it over Limerick have it over Clare, and Clare have it over Cork.
Yeah, it's mad, sure.
Sometimes it does come down to that. People have bogey teams. Cook Vision, hindsight 2020, but tough ass for Cork to beat Limerick and then go on to the final. I imagine there was a huge energy dump after. Stockroom Tim, you hate Cork too, Vernie, don't forget.
I have great respect for Cork, and it was I tell you what, I'm not sure how they kept in that game yesterday. At times it didn't look like it was going to be possible. Imagine scoring 134, and how many players would have scored more than 7 or more for Cork? A handful, which we'll get to in a minute. That's a sign of what the damage they're going to do over the next couple of years. But on the flip of that, they're not guaranteed to get to a final next year. Anything but, that's the thing about it. It's mad. You kind of have to take the opportunity to stay in front of you. And in fairness to Clare, and particularly Kelly, push them towards the line.
Yeah, to be fair to Clare, like a lot of this season, they haven't played their best stuff ever since the bit of a collapse against Limerick the first day in Ennis. They really haven't shown their A side. But when they were under the cosh here, 173 down, from then on, they really did show what they're all about. So you can't but congratulate them on that.